I've got 9 firewood myths we're going to talk about right now. So when it comes to firewood, there's a lot of people that believe certain things because they were raised by someone that told them this is the way it is, but it doesn't mean that that's correct. And there's a lot of misconceptions about firewood that I have heard through the years from people, things that didn't make sense to me, and as I did research, I found out it wasn't true. There's a lot of myths surrounding firewood that a lot of people believe because that's what their dad told them, their neighbor told them, or what society has believed for a long time. Doesn't make it true. Number 1, wood dries from ends. Some people think that the only part of wood that dries is the ends, the end of the wood, the cut. That is not true. Wood dries from all surfaces. It dries much slower through the bark because the bark is basically like skin. It's holding the moisture in. But when you split that wood open, it dries from all surfaces. So the smaller you split it, the faster it'll dry. Now some people say, I like burning the great big huge chunks because they last longer. Well, that might be because they're wet inside. But a big myth is that it'll last longer and they get more heat out of it, but they don't because it's wet inside. You're burning off that moisture, so you're losing heat in the form of steam being cooked off the moisture. And if you were to split that in half, quarter, or eighths, it's going to be drier. And it'll dry faster because every split increases the surface in which the wood can dry from. Now, it dries out the ends, especially on types of wood that have bark that is very tight or closed, that has like a layer. And one of the best examples I can think of is white birch. If you were to leave a round complete without splitting it, it takes a long time for that center to dry. Another kind of wood that takes very long to dry without splitting it is oak. It's a very high moisture content wood, and if you don't split it, it takes a long time to dry. Number 2, pine. Bad? No. Pine is not bad. Pine is fine. A lot of people only have pine or a softwood like spruce or balsam or fir. If you go to the West Coast, there's a lot of Doug fir. If you go up to Alaska, pretty much all spruce. If you go to lots of parts of Canada, lots of spruce. If you go to the Southwest, they got pinyon pine and ponderosa pine. If you go into Wyoming, they have pine. They have ponderosa pine, lodgepole pine. That's what they have, and that's what they burn. Pine does not make your wood stove explode. Pine does not create creosote and have your stove get gummed up where you're going to have problems, where you're going to have a chimney fire. It's not true. The reason people think that is because there are other woods available that are better than pine as far as heat output. A lot of people have access to oak and hickory and locust and ironwood, Osage orange, almond wood, pecan wood, all the wood that is higher BTUs. And that is better wood than pine if you're after heat. But pine is fine because it burns really good. It's great for campfires. It's great for a smokeless stove outside. You get great flames from it. You get the snap, the crackle, the pop. It smells good. It burns easy. Pine burns great. And some people, that's all they have. It is not a problem to burn pine. Your house will not explode if it's dry. Same as any other wood, it's got to be dry. Dry wood is what you want. Creosotes build up because of moisture, not because of resin or the sap in pine like a lot of people think. It's wet wood that causes creosote buildup. And pine burns very hot and fast. So what happens when a lot of people burn other wood and they put the pine in, they get a hot, fast burning, lots of flames going up their stove, up their pipes, and they get a chimney fire. It's not because of the pine. The creosote is already there. That pine, if you get that hot, fast burning flame a lot of times that climbs up your chimney, is sometimes starting the existing creosote on fire, and you get your chimney fire. It's not the pine that causes it. It just lights it in some cases. Pine is fine. Number 3, oak. Best. No. Oak is not the best. There's a lot of other wood that's better than oak as far as heat output. A lot of people think oak is the best because that's all they've got. That's all they've ever burned. It's what they have in their area. Oak is great firewood. It's fantastic firewood, but it's not the best. Oak, for the most part, puts out 23 to 24 million BTUs per full cord. There's other wood like Osage orange that puts out 32 million BTUs. Ironwood puts out 29 million BTUs. Locust, hickory put out 27 million BTUs. Almond wood, pecan, eucalyptus, they put out over 30 million BTUs. So oak is not the best. It may be the best in your area, but it is not the best wood. Now, if you want a really nice campfire, oak for sure is not the best. I mean, it's okay, it has nice flame and it burns for a long time, but it's not that much fun. It doesn't put out a lot of flame. If you want a lot of flame, pine. Pine burns great in a campfire. It's fun. You get the snap, the crackle, the pop, some explosion, some excitement. High flames, lots of light. Oak, it'll burn. Kind of like locust, it burns. It's good wood, puts out good heat, but that doesn't make it the best for everybody. It might be for you though. Number 4, Osage orange, also known as hedge. Will melt your stove, will melt your pipes. It can. It's a very hot burning wood. Like I said, 32 million BTUs, so it has a lot of heat. So maybe you don't fill it full with that, maybe you put some other wood in with it. Because it does burn very hot and very long, it puts out a high amount of heat. But I think there's a myth that if you burn it, you're gonna melt your stove. It may have happened a few times, or it may be that some people are burning lower grade woods, putting smaller amounts in, and they got a nice flame, it's nice and warm. Then they pack it full with Osage orange and all of a sudden they've got lots of heat because it's a hot burning wood and they think it's gonna melt their stove or their pipes. No, it's just a good wood. Puts out a lot of BTUs. Here we go, number 5. Big is better. Big wood is not always better. There's nothing wrong with big wood, but it's not always better. The reason is a lot of times big wood will not be dry in the middle. And people that heat with wood, a lot of times want a long burn. So they'll put in some big wood at night. And they'll say, well, I burned that big wood because in the morning I still got coals or it's still burning. And the reason a lot of times it's still burning is it's not dry in the middle. It's burning slow and inefficient. And you're not getting as much heat out of it just because it's big. Bigger is not always better, unless it's dry. So that big wood that lasts forever, like when you burn out a stump, if you've ever burned out a stump, the reason stumps take a long time to burn, it's on the ground, it's sucking up moisture from the ground, so that stump doesn't really dry out. It's always got moisture come up, especially if it's something like a white oak or red oak. That moisture is always going to be there. It takes a long time to burn out a stump because it's wet. It burns slow and inefficient. If you ever burned a big brush pile with big wood from trees that you've cut down and they've only been drying for a very short time, it doesn't burn very good. If you let that brush pile sit for a year, 2 years, then it burns great. You know why? It's dry. That's why. Dry. So bigger is not always better. If you want a fast fire, small wood takes off faster because it can breathe more, especially if you crisscross it and you have some air gaps in between. That smaller wood will light faster and burn faster. So if you need a fast fire, small wood, then you can put some bigger stuff on. But just because you can put on big, huge monster pieces doesn't make it better wood. Number 6, you must stack your wood. There we go. You must stack your wood. You don't have to stack your wood. Stacking wood looks nice. It lets you know exactly how much you have. It's neat looking. It's organized. It takes up less space. Those are all good things. There's nothing wrong with stacking wood, but you don't have to stack it. Most of the major producers of firewood, people that produce semi-loads daily, do not stack wood. They never touch the wood. It gets loaded in log form with a grapple from either a skid steer or a grapple on a tractor. They load it onto the live deck. It gets processed, it goes up the elevator into a giant pile, and it sits there for 6 months. In a pile, on gravel usually is what they do, and a big, huge cone, and they don't touch it. And then it gets scooped up, goes through a tumbler, into a truck and delivered. They don't stack it. Stacking takes a lot of time. There's nothing wrong with it. It's good exercise. It looks neat. You know how much you've got. It takes up less space. For the end user, say you're stacking it in your garage, or on your fence line, in your yard, you want it to look nice, you don't want to take up a lot of space, then it's fine. Stacking's fine, but it's not going to dry any faster stacked. Actually, loose wood dries faster because it's not layered together, packed in tight. It's loose. It can actually dry faster. You don't have to stack. Unless you want it to look good and you want organized space, you want it in your garage, you don't want to have a big pile in your garage, you want it along the edge, fine, stack, but you don't have to stack your wood. And stacking wood, like I said, actually dries slower. I've done it both ways. Stacking wood dries slower, especially if you go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows wide where all the wood is up against each other. It dries slower because there's not as much airflow. Number 7. It takes 2 years to dry wood. It does not. If you've got big, huge chunks, it can actually take longer. It can take 3 years. It can take 4 years. If you've got big 20-inch rounds and you don't split them, because that bark is on there and the moisture's not leaving the wood, as if you were splitting it. You know, if you have a round and you split it into 8 pieces, you got much more surface area for it to dry. You've got more area for the moisture to leave versus just in a round with no splits, because you've got bark all the way around the outside. It'll dry from the ends because it's open on the ends, but it won't dry all the way through. It'll take quite a while. Splitting it will speed up your drying process. So 2 years maybe on a solid piece, maybe 3, maybe 4. I've cut trees that have been laying in the woods, oak especially, for 3 or 4 years, hung up, not on the ground. I've cut it open and the center is still wet after 4 or 5 years. But I've also split oak that had bark on it, living trees. I've cut it and split it, thrown it in a pile or had it stacked, and 6 months later, if it's in the open where the sun and wind can hit it, it's dry because you got all this surface that it can dry from. So it could be longer, it can be shorter. Number 8, wood. Oop, gotta put a T in there. Heats you 2 times. No, it does not. It heats you way, way more than that. Now, the reason is people say, oh, when you make the wood, it heats you. And when you burn it, it heats you. Yeah, you're kind of right. But there's a lot of other processes that happen that add up to way more than this too. Say you're going to the woods to cut your wood. You cut the tree down. You're getting hot right there. You're limbing it. You're getting hot again. You cut it up into rounds. You're getting some more exercise because you're lifting that saw all the time. Then maybe you're done for the day. So you got heated several times during the day. Then you come back. You pick up those rounds. You load those into your truck or your trailer. More heat in your body because you're exercising, you're getting work. Then you take those rounds home if that's what you're going to do. Then you take them out of the truck or trailer. You're splitting them. Goes into a big pile. Then, or if you're putting it into a bucket or trailer, then you're stacking it or putting it in a pile. You're handling it again. Then after it gets dry, after it's in your pile or your stack, you're taking it, loading it up again, or moving it in some way and bringing it to your location to burn. If you're doing it, bringing it into your house or on your deck, or you're stacking it in your garage so it's close by where your stove is or your fireplace, you're handling it again, you're moving it again. Then when you take it from there, put it into your fireplace, firebox, fire pit, whatever it is you're doing, you're moving it again. And then you burn it. Then you get the heat you're looking for. The heat that really is what all this other stuff happened for. So after that, then you got to clean out the ashes. That's the last time you touch the wood. That's a lot of times of getting heat, a lot of times of getting exercise. So it's not 2 times. It's probably 7, 8, 9 times for the average person. And yes, I know there's people like, oh, all my wood gets processed right into a basket, and then I move it with the skid steer tractor and it sits there till it's dry. Then I pick it up with the skid steer tractor and I move it to where I'm going to burn it, and then I put it in the stove. Yeah, that's pretty efficient. But that's not most people. Most people touch the wood a lot. Every time you touch it, you're getting exercise. Every time you touch it, you're losing time and money also. So less touches is better. So try to reduce that amount. I work hard on trying to reduce the amount of touches on the wood because I want to make more wood. That's me. And number 9, we're down here in the bottom. Must cover the wood. you don't have to cover your wood. Most of the wood that I have is not covered. The only people that should cover wood is if you're going to have it stored for a long period of time. If you're the end user. When it comes to drying wood, my wood sits outside for a minimum of 3 or 4 months, usually 6 or 7, 8, and then it gets sold. And it is not covered at all during that time because I want the wind and sun to hit it all the time. I want as much airflow as possible. I want as much sun as possible on it. If you cover your wood, especially if you're tarping it all the way down, you're restricting the airflow and you're keeping the moisture in, not out. You want it out. So if you're going to cover your wood, cover only the top, and only, in my opinion, after it's dry. So if you're the end user, you're processing your wood, you're making your wood, and you've got it outside in a storage area or in big piles or stacks, keep it uncovered until it's dry. When it's totally dry, then yeah, maybe put some covering on the top, but cover only the top. You can either use tarps, tins, boards, you can use plastic, whatever it is. Whatever material you can find for covering the tops, but the top only, maybe a little bit on the edge, but definitely not down the sides. You want it to stay open so it can breathe, so that it can continue drying. Because when it's ready to burn, it might be 20% moisture content, but you might not be using it for 6 months or a year. If you cover the top and have it off the ground, that wood might go down to 14, 15%. So the drier it gets, the more heat you're going to get out of it. So you do not have to cover the top. Now the exceptions is if you're in a very rainy area. Say you're in Washington State. You're in a place that it rains more than it doesn't. You might have 200 days of rain a year, whatever you guys get out there. Our rain tends to come once a week, once every 2 weeks, maybe once every 3 weeks. It lasts for 8 hours, 10 hours, maybe a rainy day. Maybe you'll get 16, 18 hours of rain, and then it clears off and it dries off and the wood dries right off. Just like when you get rain on your driveway or sidewalk, when it stops raining, even if it doesn't clear off, if the wind picks up, those surfaces dry very fast, and mostly it's evaporation. It evaporates right off of the wood. So the rain's not going to hurt it that much. Now, the other exception is if you're storing your wood for the wintertime use and you get a lot of snow. My brother that lives in northern Wisconsin, he puts tins on all of his wood across the top because he sells all of his wood, or he's going to be burning it himself, and he wants that wood to not have snow on it. So what he does is he digs into the piles, sells it, there's no snow on it, and that works. Now, I have snow get on some of my wood and some of my big piles, and what I do is I just dig into the side of it, and yeah, maybe you'll have the top couple pieces will have snow on it, but as you pull those pieces off, the wood falls down and it dries up as the sun is on it. It works just fine. If I was to get a foot or 2 or 3 feet of snow, then yeah, maybe you'd want to cover your wood. Maybe, but you certainly don't have to. For those of you that are stockpiling wood and you've got a wood shed, or you've got a place to put it that's got a top on it, but yet the sides are somehow open or vented, that's fantastic, and that works really good. And if you've got long-term storage, you can do that. But if you want to dry wood fast, in the open. So there you go. Those are the 9 myths that I have found about firewood. Do you have any other myths that you've heard from people? Now, I'm not saying these myths aren't partially true. Sometimes they are. But the wood dries from the end. Yeah, it does. But it also dries from everywhere else. Pine is bad. No, pine is fine. Pine burns just like all other wood. And there's some very good pine, and some people, that's all they have is pine. So pine is fine. Number 3, oak's the best. It's good wood. Not the best. It's good wood. Number 4, Osage orange hedge will melt your stove. No. No. Maybe you have thin metal, or maybe you did overload it, and it might melt it, but any kind of wood can melt your stove if you get it hot enough. You get enough oxygen and enough fuel burning in there. Bigger is better? Not necessarily. There's nothing wrong with big, as long as it's dry. Number 6, you have to stack the wood. No, you don't. You don't have to. If you're an end user, you might want to. But if you're producing wood to sell, or if you've got large volume, you don't have to take time to stack it. I personally save over 300 hours a year not stacking my 200 full cords that I produce. I used to spend a little over an hour to stack every cord of wood, because I got to put runners down, got to stack it, build the ends, or build the cribs that I put them in. I used to always do pallets where I would do a bottom and then a side and then brace the sides and then stack it in there. Yeah, it looks nice. Yes, it saves space. It works, but you don't have to stack it. Now I just go loose. Number 7, takes 2 years for it to dry. No, it can be faster than that, or it could take longer. It just depends. Number 8, heats you twice. No, it heats you way more than twice, unless you've got big equipment. But if you're doing wood the way most guys do, you're handling it a lot, you're gonna get heated up a lot more than twice. And then number 9, you must cover it. Nah, you don't have to, but you can once it's dry, or if you're the end user, just like the stacking it, then that's fine. That's all I got for today, folks. I will see you 5:30 a.m. tomorrow morning with another video. I got one every day, and right now there's over 2,000 videos on my channel you can go watch. So if you like this or you want more information on firewood, check it out. Good night, Irene.